Welcome back to the Humble Market Timer YouTube channel. Once again, if you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. In today's video, I want to focus on Bitcoin, and I want to try to establish a price target from the bullish point of view. I spent a good bit of time in my last video on Solana describing how the history of how crypto has traded and also looking at how the technicals of the chart I created a price target for Solana. And I wanted to do the same thing with Bitcoin. Before I go any further, here's my disclaimer. Once again, these are my sole ideas, not investment advice. Now, Bitcoin is, as we all know, it's the godfather of cryptocurrency. It's the most notable, it's been around the longest, and it's the most credible. And based on that, we know based on the history of crypto that Q4 of post-halving years is always the boom time for Bitcoin and crypto in general. So I want to look at first the chart of Bitcoin. And as you can see from this chart, this is how the chart has registered going back to starting in 2020. Bitcoin, of course, extends beyond that, but I wanted to look at it from 2020 up until now to kind of give you a feel for how the pattern of Bitcoin has developed over the last few years. And what I did was I created a couple of parallels. I created a parallel via the weekly price action. And this is the parallel in which I think best fits Bitcoin. It's the trading action that has occurred all the way from the bottom of the last cycle all the way up until now. And it has traded pretty uniformly in this parallel. You see you have a hit up here, you have a hit up here, hit here, hit here, hit here. And you also have hits on the bottom portion of the parallel here and here. So I think this is a good parallel. Also, I did a parallel on the RSI. A lot of times the RSI will mimic the price action and kind of give you some insight of where the price action will go as far as how much room it has to move. And initially looking at the RSI, it might look, just by looking here, that maybe Bitcoin is in a downtrend. But if you look at it from when the stock bottomed in the last cycle, you can see that it has still moved in an incline. So I do believe there is more room based on the RSI. But I want to look at two things. First, let's look at kind of where Bitcoin is now. As you can see here, we have a very nice cup and handle setup that has taken place. And you can see the price action as the price has moved out of that cup handle. We broke the neckline here and we retraced back to the neckline to verify that we did have a breakout, and we have since moved higher. If you look at the neckline, take the neckline to the deepest part of the cup and you move that to the breakout point, it gives you a measured move as to where the price action should go just based on that measured move. And if you look, it goes to about the 130-ish range. We've reached 126 right now. So it looks like it may have a little more upside in this initial move, but I don't believe that is the bullish price target. Let me give you some idea of what I believe the bullish price target is. So let's delete this and let's delete this line. Now, as I stated before, we have a nice, clear, in my belief, parallel, and I believe that we'll have another leg in crypto and another leg in Bitcoin. I mentioned that Bitcoin in previous years has always topped in Q4, typically in November or December. So we are approaching that time frame right now. And what I believe needs to happen is we first need to break out of this parallel, and that tends to happen in that Q4 of post-halving years. But if we break out of this parallel, you now create a different parallel. And now the top portion of this original parallel now becomes the midpoint. So you take the top part of the parallel and you move it higher until that old top part is now the midpoint. And I believe this is a good parallel too, because what do you see here? The top part of the parallel now lines up almost perfectly with one of the last peaks that we had in Bitcoin in the previous cycle. So I believe this is a great parallel. And if you look here and see where the price action ends up, or where the top of that parallel ends up at the end of Q4 in that November, December time frame, you can see here that the price would have to hit at about this point. And if you look, you can see that is at about $180,000. Now there, you tend to get some latitude and a little bit of plus or minus with that. So I believe that you possibly could go up maybe as high as 200,000 in that final push for Bitcoin to reach its most bullish price target. But as you can again see, the trigger will be to break this midpoint line. If we break this midpoint line and we confirm, I believe you will see a swift move, maybe within the course of as soon as maybe a week time frame or maybe a week and a half time frame. We break this midpoint, we can go very quickly to the top of this parallel. So be on the lookout for that. One more thing with that, look at the RSI here. The RSI is currently in the low 60s now. Typically, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies typically top in the 80 to 90 range on the weekly chart when you have reached the peak of the cycle. So I project there to be a move potentially from here, and I made this little circle area here, so you can kind of see where the end of the year would be. So I predict that you would possibly see the RSI do something like that as we reach the top part of the parallel in the RSI. Now, just to kind of give you some other few things that why I believe Bitcoin could make a very bullish move or have a very bullish price target. Here's something that came out recently with Morgan Stanley. They're projecting that their wealth unit advises 2 to 4% allocations in crypto. Now, this is Morgan Stanley. If you look at the top money managers, most of these money managers have asset under management. Maybe if you look at maybe the top 5 to 10, you're looking at maybe about $30 to $40 million. 30 to $40 trillion of assets under management. And if those asset managers are allocating 2 to 4%, you're talking about an infusion in crypto of $500 billion to possibly $1 trillion if multiple funds such as the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, if they also take a similar approach to what Morgan Stanley Wealth Unit is now advising. So be on the lookout for that. That is something that could really cause an influx and an inflow in cash in the crypto community, and in particular Bitcoin. Also, you have Trump now mulling over a possible tariff bonus for Americans that kind of will infuse the economy as a stimulus. That also tends to symbolize more risk on, which is steroids for crypto. And that environment could really provide the boom to make crypto rise to extreme heights. We've seen massive moves in precious metals. We've seen massive moves in quantum computing. We've seen massive moves in AI infrastructure. All those moves taking place thus far. We have not seen that explosive move out of crypto yet. But if those type of things can have explosive moves, I see no reason why Bitcoin, based on its history, won't follow suit. Hope you liked the video. If you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.